My name is Evelyn. I'm 32 years old, and I live in Chicago. Look, I'm not going to pretty this up. I said something stupid. Monumentally, catastrophically stupid. And now Daniel, my husband of 6 years, has packed a suitcase, and I have absolutely no idea if he's ever coming back. It all started with dinner. Yeah, I know. Dinner. Of all the pathetic things for a marriage to implode over, Daniel got home from his consulting job. Exhausted. He always is. The man works hours that would kill a lesser person, chasing promotions and bonuses at some soul-crushing firm downtown. But he makes good money. Very good money. The kind of money that means I don't have to work. I guess that makes me a housewife. I've always hated that word. It sounds so drab, so domestic. I don't think of myself as the type to find joy in scrubbing floors or baking bread from scratch. My talents lie elsewhere. In fashion, in knowing which new restaurant is worth the reservation, in keeping myself looking like the kind of woman a man like Daniel would want to come home to. That's a contribution, isn't it? Anyway, the argument. It kicked off because I didn't cook. I'd had a long day. I really had. I'd spent hours scrolling through Instagram, falling down a rabbit hole of European travel influencers, then got completely sucked into a true crime documentary that left me feeling unsettled. By the time 6 o'clock rolled around, the idea of chopping an onion felt like an insurmountable task. So I ordered in, from that expensive Italian place Daniel loves. We have the money. It's not a big deal. But he walked through the door, loosened his tie, and his eyes scanned the empty kitchen, and then his face settled into that look. You know the one. It's not quite anger. It's worse. It's a heavy, thick layer of disappointment, mixed with a frustration that just grates on your nerves. He didn't raise his voice. He never does, not at first. Evelyn, he started, his voice flat. You've been home all day. The least you could do is make a meal. Then he threw it in. The jab he always saves for when he's truly annoyed. Some kind of financial contribution would be nice. But since we don't have that, a hot dinner doesn't seem like too much to ask. A low blow. A really low blow. I mean, I manage the house. Sort of. The cleaning lady comes twice a week. But I oversee things. I keep it looking like a page out of a magazine. And I look good for him. I spend hours and a small fortune making sure I'm toned, styled, and put together. Isn't that part of the deal? Isn't that what men like him want? A beautiful accessory to a successful life? That's when I snapped. The words came out before I could even think, slick with venom I didn't know I was holding. Maybe if you made as much money as Vincent, I spat. I wouldn't have to worry about cooking every night. We could just have a chef. Vincent. My ex. Yeah, I said it. The second the name left my mouth, the air in the room changed. It became thin, cold. I watched the color literally drain from Daniel's face. He didn't yell. He didn't argue back. He just stopped. He became completely, terrifyingly still. And honestly, that quiet scared me more than any shouting match ever could. He stood there for a long moment, his eyes locked on mine, looking at me like he'd never seen me before. Then, without another word, he turned and walked out of the room. I didn't follow him. I figured he just needed to cool off. He'd go to his study, pour a whiskey, and we'd talk about it later. He always comes around, but when I went upstairs a couple of hours later, a large leather suitcase was open on our bed. Half packed. My throat went dry. I tried to play it cool, leaning against the doorframe, forcing a little laugh. What are you doing? You're not seriously leaving over this, are you? He didn't even look at me. He just kept folding his shirts with methodical, precise movements, mumbling more to himself than to me. Can't believe I wasted so many years trying to make this work. That's when the panic started to crawl up my spine, cold and sharp. I didn't mean it, I said, my voice suddenly small. I was just frustrated, Daniel. I said something stupid. He finally stopped packing and looked at me, but his eyes were empty. There was nothing there for me. It's not just this one thing, Evelyn, he said, his voice dangerously calm. It's everything. You don't appreciate a single thing I do for you. You spend money like it's water. You don't take anything in our life seriously. And now you're throwing Vincent in my face? He shook his head, a bitter, humorless smile playing on his lips. I'm done. I didn't know what to say. Part of me, the proud, stubborn part, wanted to scream at him for overreacting, for being so dramatic. But another part, a tiny, quiet part I refused to acknowledge, felt a sickening twist of guilt. Not that I would ever admit that to him. I mean, yeah, I shouldn't have brought up Vincent. But it's not like Daniel is perfect. He's always working, always serious. Half the time I feel like I'm invisible to him unless I've spent too much on my credit card. So yeah, he left. That night, he zipped up his suitcase, walked down the stairs, got in his car, and drove away. I have no idea where he went. He hasn't called, hasn't texted, and I'm too stubborn to reach out first. Besides, what would I even say? Sorry for comparing you to my rich, awful ex. That doesn't exactly fix things, does it? So now I'm sitting here, in this big, quiet house, wondering if I've finally messed up beyond repair. Part of me feels like this is on him. If he just appreciated me more, I wouldn't have felt the need to lash out. But another part of me knows. I crossed a line, a big one. Not that I'm ready to admit that out loud. It's not like I'm entirely to blame, right? After Daniel walked out, I spent most of the night on the living room couch, the television murmuring in the background, replaying the fight in my head. I wasn't crying. I'm not really the weepy type, but I did feel a little sick to my stomach. A sour, churning feeling that maybe, just maybe, I'd pushed things too far this time. Still, I couldn't bring myself to text him. Or call. My pride wouldn't let me. I figured he needed time to cool off. Honestly, I thought he'd be back by morning. He'd stormed out before, a few times over the years, but he never stayed gone for long. The pull of his own bed, his own routine, was always too strong. When I woke up on the couch to the gray morning light filtering through the blinds and realized his side of the garage was still empty, that's when the anxiety started to set in. It wasn't so much about him leaving for good. It was about what he might be thinking. Daniel isn't like me. He overanalyzes everything. He's a consultant. It's his job to pick things apart, find the flaws, and create a strategy. I knew he was probably sitting somewhere, in some sterile hotel room, going over every little thing I've ever said or done that rubbed him the wrong way. And if he started putting all those little pieces together, I could be in real trouble. By late afternoon, I couldn't take the silence anymore. I called him, straight to voicemail. I tried again an hour later. Same thing. I sent a simple text. Are we going to talk about this? No response. The little blue checkmark showed he'd read it. He was just ignoring me. So I sat there, staring at my phone, wondering what my next move should be. Another text felt desperate. Waiting felt like conceding defeat. Eventually, I decided on a voice note. It felt more personal, more sincere, like he'd hear the tone in my voice and know I wasn't trying to start another fight. I took a deep breath and pressed record. Ryan, Daniel, can we just talk? I feel like this has gotten blown way out of proportion. I didn't mean what I said about Vincent. You know I can't stand him. Honestly, the only reason I ever stayed with that guy was because he had money. And even then, I couldn't stand him half the time. He was arrogant, selfish, just an all-around awful person. I didn't say it to hurt you. It came out wrong. Please come home, so we can talk about this. End 1. As soon as I hit send, a cold wave of dread washed over me. I realized how bad that sounded. Like really bad. But I was just trying to be honest. You know? I thought maybe if he understood how little Vincent actually meant to me, he'd see that the comparison wasn't that deep. I was trying to downplay Vincent, to show Daniel he was better. Hours passed with no response. The house grew darker. The silence felt heavier. Finally, around 9 o'clock, my phone lit up. A text from Daniel. It wasn't what I expected. It just said, "Thanks for confirming what I've suspected for a while. You just use people for what they can give you. I guess I'm no different." That one hit me like a punch to the gut. I mean, what was I supposed to say to that? He wasn't wrong. Not entirely. But it wasn't like I went into this marriage with a checklist, thinking, oh, here's a stable guy I can take advantage of. I love him, I think. Or at least, I love the life we've built together. But his text made it sound like I was some kind of calculated, cold-hearted gold digger. And that really, really pissed me off. I called him again, my thumb jabbing the screen. To my surprise, he actually picked up this time. He didn't say hello. Just a cold, dead, "What do you want, Evelyn?" What do I want? I want to fix this, Daniel. You're making it sound like I don't care about you at all, and that's not true. Isn't it? His voice was calm, but there was an edge to it, as sharp as broken glass. You literally just admitted you used your ex for his money. How do I know you're not doing the same damn thing to me? Because it's different. I snapped, my voice rising. You're nothing like Vincent. He was a jerk who treated me like garbage. You actually care about me. Do I? He shot back. Because right now, it feels like all I do is pay the bills and make your life easier while you sit around, scroll through your phone, and complain that I don't make enough money. Do you even hear yourself? I didn't know how to respond to that. Part of me wanted to defend myself, to explain that I wasn't just sitting around. I kept the house looking nice. I made sure I looked good for him. I tried to make our life together comfortable and elegant, but another part of me knew that wasn't what he wanted to hear. Daniel, I said finally, trying to keep my voice from shaking. I'm sorry if I've made you feel unappreciated. I didn't mean to. But you can't honestly think I'm only with you for your money. Can't I? He said. Because from where I'm standing, that's exactly what it looks like. And if that's the case, then maybe I'm wasting my time here. That stung. Like, really stung. I wanted to yell at him, to tell him he was being unfair, cruel. But deep down, I knew he had a point. I'd never thought of myself as someone who used people, but when I looked back, the pattern was hard to ignore. Vincent was rich, so I put up with his awful personality. And Daniel, well, Daniel wasn't Vincent-level rich, but he offered stability, a beautiful home, a life without worry. I had definitely been drawn to that. But that didn't mean I didn't love him. Did it? Daniel, please don't do this, I said, my voice finally cracking a little. You're blowing this out of proportion. I made a mistake, okay? A stupid mistake. But that doesn't mean I don't love you. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. For a moment, a hopeful, desperate moment, I thought I'd gotten through to him. But then he spoke, his voice void of all emotion. I need some time to think, Evelyn. Don't call me again. I'll reach out when I'm ready. Enders. And just like that, the call ended. The dial tone buzzed in my ear, loud and final in the silent house. Now I'm sitting here, replaying our conversation in my head, wondering if I've completely irreversibly screwed this up. I know I said things I shouldn't have. But does that really make me the bad guy here? It's not like he's perfect. He works all the time, he barely pays attention to me, and then he gets mad when I don't live up to his quiet, unspoken expectations. Is it so wrong to want more than just being a housewife? Daniel's silence over the next few days was unbearable. It was a physical presence in the house, a heavy, suffocating blanket of quiet. I went back and forth between being furious at him for being so dramatic and feeling a gnawing pit in my stomach that I should apologize again. More. Better. But I couldn't bring myself to call him again after what he'd said. Don't call me. The words echoed in my head. I hate being ignored. And the fact that he was dragging this out, punishing me with silence, was starting to seriously mess with my head. By day 3, I was so worked up. I did something I knew I shouldn't. Something impulsive. I drove to his office. The gleaming glass and steel tower downtown felt alien, imposing. I figured if he wasn't going to come home, he had to be somewhere. And I was sick and tired of sitting around, waiting for him to think. I sat in my car for a few minutes, parked across the street, debating whether I should actually go inside. It felt stalkerish, desperate. But the longer I sat there, the angrier I got. Before I knew it, I was walking through the revolving doors into the cold marble lobby. The receptionist, a young woman with a professionally pleasant smile, gave me a weird look when I asked for Daniel Evans. But she didn't say anything, just picked up her phone and called up to his floor. A minute later, it wasn't Daniel who came down. It was some guy from his team, Mark or Matt or something. A man I'd only met once or twice at holiday parties. He looked profoundly uncomfortable. Evelyn, he said, avoiding my eyes. Daniel's not here. He's not here? He's supposed to be at work, I said, my voice sharper than I intended. The poor guy shifted his weight. He took a few personal days. Said something came up. Personal days. That only made me more annoyed. He wasn't at work. He wasn't at home. Where the hell was he? I got back in my car, fuming. Part of me wondered if he'd gone to stay with one of his friends. But Daniel isn't the type to crash on someone's couch. He's too proud for that. Too private. Then a darker thought crossed my mind. A thought I tried to push away, but it kept slithering back. What if he was staying with someone else? Like, A woman. I hated that my mind even went there. But the secrecy, the fact that he wasn't telling me where he was, it made me suspicious. I went home, poured myself a large glass of wine, and started scrolling through his social media. There was nothing new, of course. His profiles were mostly dormant, filled with old vacation photos and obligatory posts about his company's achievements. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. That's when I remembered his email. Daniel isn't exactly a tech genius. His passwords are all ridiculously predictable. The name of his childhood dog, his birthday. I told myself I wasn't going to actually snoop. Just check. Check to see if there were any hotel confirmations, any clues about where he might be. It was for his own good. Really. I was worried. The second I logged in, I saw it. An email that made my stomach drop right through the floor. It was from a real estate agent. The subject line read, "Follow up on your inquiry." My heart started hammering against my ribs. My hand was trembling as I clicked on it. The email was short, terse. Just a confirmation of an appointment to tour an apartment later that week. An apartment, not a house, not something for the two of us. Just for him. I felt like the ground had shifted under me. Was he seriously looking for a place to live? Without even talking to me about it? The absolute nerve. The audacity. I grabbed my phone and called him, my anger overriding everything else. Straight to voicemail, again. This time, I left a message. My voice was shaking with fury. "So, what? You're apartment hunting now? Is this your big solution, Daniel? Running away instead of dealing with our problems? Call me back." He didn't. Not that night. Not the next day. I spent the entire day spiraling, my mind racing. What should I do? Part of me wanted to drive straight to that real estate office and make a scene. But I knew, deep down, that wouldn't help. Instead, I texted him again. This time, I tried to be more measured, more adult. "Daniel, I saw the email about the apartment. Can we please just talk? If you're that unhappy, I deserve to know why." It wasn't until the next morning that he finally replied. His text was short and to the point, a digital slap in the face. "I'm not making any decisions yet. I just need space." Space. That didn't exactly calm me down, but at least it was something. Still, I couldn't stop obsessing over the idea of him leaving for good. It felt like the more I tried to fix things, the worse I made them. The more I pushed, the further he pulled away. And I was starting to realize, with a terror that was completely new to me, that I had no idea how to stop him. When I finally heard from Daniel again, it wasn't the explanation I'd hoped for. He texted me the address of a coffee shop downtown. "Meet me there at 3 if you want to talk." I thought it was weird. Clinical. Why not meet at the house, our home? But I didn't question it. At that point, I was desperate for answers. Any answers. When I got there, he was already sitting at a small table in the corner, staring out the window. He looked calm, composed, dressed in a crisp button-down shirt, looking like he'd just come from a business meeting. The sight of his composure, his eerie peacefulness, made my blood boil. Here I was, a complete wreck, losing sleep, my stomach in knots for days. And he looked like he hadn't a care in the world. I slid into the chair across from him, crossing my arms over my chest. I wasn't going to play nice. "What's this about you looking at apartments?" I demanded, keeping my voice low but sharp. He didn't flinch. He just took a slow sip of his coffee before meeting my gaze. "It's exactly what it looks like, Evelyn," he said, his voice even. "I'm moving out." For a moment, I thought I'd misheard him. The background noise of the coffee shop, the hiss of the espresso machine, the clatter of cups seemed to fade away. "You're... what?" He leaned back in his chair, a gesture so casual it was insulting. He looked almost bored. "I've already started the paperwork," he continued, as if discussing the weather. "For the divorce. I've been talking to a lawyer for weeks. I was just waiting to get a few things in place before I told you." It felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. Divorce. Divorce? I knew we'd been fighting. I knew he was angry. But I never, not in a million years, thought it was that serious. "Are you kidding me right now?" My voice was a choked whisper. "You're ending our marriage? Because of one stupid argument?" Daniel let out a bitter, hollow laugh. "Evelyn, this isn't about one argument. This is about years. Years of me trying to make this work while you take, and take, and take. I'm done." His words hit me like a physical slap. But what really caught my attention, what really terrified me, was the look in his eyes. It wasn't anger. It wasn't even sadness. It was just finality. He had made up his mind, and there was no changing it. Don't you dare act like I'm some villain here, I snapped, my own anger rising to meet his coldness. I've put up with plenty from you, too. You're always working. You never make time for me. And now you're just walking away without even giving me a chance to fix things? He just shook his head slowly, a look of profound pity on his face. You had plenty of chances, Evelyn. My family warned me about you. My friends warned me about you. But I didn't listen, because I thought I could make it work. I thought if I just loved you enough, you'd eventually change. But you haven't. And I'm done sacrificing my own happiness for someone who doesn't appreciate it. I opened my mouth to argue, to throw more accusations at him, but he cut me off. And before you ask, he said, his eyes hard as stone. Yes, there's someone else. That stopped me cold. The words caught in my throat. You're cheating on me? I spat, my voice louder than I'd intended. A few heads at nearby tables turned. Don't even try to play the victim, he said, his tone sharp. You've been using me from day one. At least with her. I feel like a person, not just a wallet. Her. The word echoed in my head like a siren. Who is she? I demanded. How long has this been going on? Daniel sighed. A deep, weary sound, like he couldn't believe he had to explain this to me. Her name is Sophie. She's been a friend for a while. Nothing happened. But things didn't get serious until I finally admitted to myself that this marriage was over. She actually listens to me, Evelyn. She supports me. She's interested in my life. And unlike you, she doesn't make me feel like I'm never, ever enough. I felt like the floor was crumbling beneath my feet. This couldn't be happening. Daniel wasn't supposed to be the one to leave. He wasn't supposed to be the one to find someone else. That was supposed to be my move, if it ever came to that. Not his. So what? I snapped, grasping for anything that might hurt him. You think she's so perfect? Just wait. She'll get tired of you too, once she realizes you're not exactly a prize. He just shook his head, looking at me like I was a complete stranger. I've already wasted too much time on you, Evelyn. I'm not doing this anymore. He paused, then delivered the final blow. The papers will be ready next week. You can keep the house. But I'm out. Anna. He stood up, grabbed his coat from the back of the chair, and walked out of the coffee shop without a single backward glance. I just sat there, staring at the empty chair across from me, feeling a toxic, churning mix of anger, humiliation, and something else. Something I didn't want to name. Regret. And the worst part? The absolute worst part was that I couldn't even blame him. Not really. For years, I'd taken him for granted. I'd pushed his buttons just to see how far I could go, always assuming he'd never actually leave. And now that he had, I wasn't sure what to do. Part of me wanted to fight for him, to prove that I could change. But another part of me knew it was too late. Daniel had made up his mind, and there was no changing it. I sat there for a long time, the coffee in front of me growing cold, trying to figure out my next move. But deep down, I already knew the truth. Daniel was gone, and it was all my fault. The divorce didn't take long. Daniel was efficient, just like he was with everything else in his life. He wasn't interested in fighting. He was interested in being done. Within a month, the papers were signed, the assets were divided, and I was officially on my own. He kept his promise about the house. At the time, I thought that was a win, a victory in a war I had clearly lost. But now, sitting in this big, empty place, it feels more like a prison. A museum of a life I systematically dismantled. Every empty room is a reminder of everything I lost. The first few weeks after he moved out were the worst. I'd sit in the cavernous living room at night, the silence pressing in on me, staring at my phone, hoping, praying he'd call or text to say he'd made a terrible mistake. But he didn't. Instead, I saw photos of him on social media. Friends of friends would post things, and they'd pop up on my feed. There he was, at a street festival, laughing. He looked happier than I had seen him in years. Lighter. And she was always there. Sophie. She was everything I wasn't. Sweet-faced, with kind eyes and a natural smile. She wore jeans and comfortable-looking sweaters. She was probably one of those annoyingly low-maintenance women who wouldn't roll her eyes at him when he talked about his work portfolio or complain about having to cook dinner. Seeing them together made my stomach turn. It wasn't just jealousy, though there was plenty of that. It was this gnawing, sickening realization that he looked free. Like he'd been carrying the weight of our marriage on his shoulders for so long, and now that it was gone, he could finally breathe. Meanwhile, I was suffocating. The bills started piling up faster than I expected. Sure, I got spousal support, but it wasn't nearly enough to cover the lifestyle I was accustomed to. The mortgage on this house alone was astronomical. I had to cut back. On everything. No more impulsive online shopping sprees. No more weekly salon appointments. No more dinners out with friends at trendy new restaurants. I even had to sell some of my designer bags. I remember sitting on my bedroom floor, surrounded by Chanel and Hermes, feeling a wave of humiliation so intense it made me dizzy. These things had been my armor, my status symbols. Now they were just currency to keep the lights on. At first, I told myself I'd figure something out. Maybe I'd get a job, though I wasn't exactly sure what I was qualified to do. I hadn't worked since my early 20s, and even then, it was just a string of retail jobs I barely showed up for on time. The idea of starting over at 32, with no real skills and a resume that could fit on a post-it note, was terrifying. But the worst part wasn't the money. It was the loneliness. For years, I had taken for granted that Daniel would always be there. Even when we were fighting, I knew he'd come home at the end of the day. The house would have a rhythm. His keys in the bowl by the door. The sound of the shower running. The low murmur of the news on TV. Now, the silence was deafening. I thought about reaching out to friends, but most of them were married with kids, too busy with their own lives to deal with my drama. And the few who did call only seemed to want to gossip about the divorce, not actually help. I tried dating, mostly out of spite. I downloaded a couple of apps and went on a few dates, but it was a disaster. Every guy I met seemed either completely uninterested or way too interested in all the wrong ways. And none of them were Daniel, not that I would ever admit it. But I missed him. I missed the way he'd laugh at my terrible jokes. I missed the way he'd roll his eyes when I spent too much on a pair of shoes, but still pay the credit card bill without saying a word. I even missed the fights, as ridiculous as that sounds. At least when we were fighting, he still cared enough to argue. One night, after too many glasses of wine, I did something I promised myself I wouldn't. I called him. It went straight to voicemail, of course. But I left a message anyway, my words slurring together in a mess of regret. Hey, I don't know why I'm calling. I guess I wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. I know I didn't treat you the way I should have. And I don't blame you for leaving. I hope you're happy. He never called back. But honestly, I didn't expect him to. He'd moved on, and it was time for me to try and do the same. It's been 6 months now. 6 months of this strange, new, hollow life. Daniel and Sophie are still together. From what I hear through the grapevine, that relentless, painful source of information, they're already talking about moving in together. I've stopped stalking their social media. It was like pressing on a bruise. A self-inflicted pain that served no purpose other than to remind me of what I'd lost. It only made me feel worse. Instead, I've been trying to figure out what's next for me. I got a part-time job at a boutique downtown. It's not glamorous, and the pay is awful, but it's something. A reason to get out of bed in the morning. A way to feel a little less useless. It's not enough to keep the house, though. I had to call a realtor last week. I'll probably have to sell it soon. The thought of leaving this place, the place where we built our life together, makes me physically sick, but I don't have a choice. Sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet and my defenses are down, I let myself wonder, what might have happened if I'd been different? If I'd appreciated him more? If I'd cooked dinner that night? If I had just tried harder to be a partner, instead of just a passenger? But it's too late for what-ifs. They're a poison that offers no cure. This is my reality now. Alone. Broke. Starting over. And Daniel, he's happy. Genuinely happy. I can see it in the corners of his eyes in the photos I'm not supposed to be looking at. It's funny. I always used to think he'd never survive without me. That he needed me to make his life interesting, to pull him out of his serious, work-obsessed world. But it turns out, I'm the one who can't survive without him. Maybe that's the cruelest joke of all.